Season 3 of Horizon and Marmoris, a
Hello.
Mage the Awakening 2E Chronicle. Season 3 of Horizon and Marmoris. So,
Hello.
who would like to give a recap of what happened last time?
Oh, I knew you were going to do this, and I didn't prepare by remembering, but I can give it a go. So last time we delved into the jungle, and sort of chasing after the possum fruit, as we called it,
Yes.
and we all exploded into meat clouds, but that was okay. We kind of wiggled around and had a very strange experience. Um, Eventually coming across a talking giant sort of plant with some fruit, that was telling us about the lies of distance, and things like that. And Pascal and Kesson, I believe they both got the boon from it. Successfully got around, figured out the truth that it was trying to impart. And kind of John and Dalian kind of took their own um, interpretations of it away. And it was kind of our first sort of mystery as a group, getting together to turn these things down.
It's true. And at the end of the session, Dalian had some time to pop in on matters, a little more personally involved. He went to attempt to purchase some medicine for his ailing father from a local apothecary. Unfortunately,
Yep.
found himself short of cash, but was given the offer of a barter. In the coral reefs, where pearl divers go looking for treasures off the sort of western coast. There's a coral reef, very pretty, has interesting properties, and he wanted some of it to, powder and mix up to help with indigestion or some such. And Dalian agreed. So I guess we'll come back, sort of. Everyone had been heading home at that point, I think, or by home, I mean to their lodgings, their crew, wherever they had been staying. Um, so we will pick up on the next morning, unless anyone has anything particularly important that they wanted to do in the evening.
Nope.
No, I think John is certainly just meditating on the day's findings and things, and continuing to mull things over.
Okay. Um, cool. So we will start in the morning then. What is Dalian doing?
Waking up first thing in the morning, casting of a spell.
The same.
Yep. Many faces.
Um, that costs a point of mana to put into your artifact, right? It uses your mana
Uh,
pool or its own, and it's currently
it's on,
empty.
I think.
Well,
Yeah, I didn't know if it was starting full up or empty, so I put it in empty.
oh, okay. Yeah, we
And
can start at full. You spent dots on
oh,
this thing.
nice.
You've used it
Uh,
at least twice so far on screen,
yes.
and you don't
So
necessarily have a way to refill it. So,
nope.
eventually it'll start eating into yours, and you will need to figure out where to get more mana from.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dalian doing the ritual with his artifact, which is a small sort of pendant in this strange Escher-ish,
Hmm.
if I can actually speak, configuration that twists and turns and seems to move before the eyes. And when he utilizes it, it casts a version of life and time veiling spell, which changes
Weaving.
his apparent
Weaving.
age. Weaving.
Yep.
Is it
Mm.
so? It's actually changing his body, not just changing his
Correct.
appearance. Okay. Okay, yes. So every morning he de-ages and physically makes himself younger through use of this
Yeah.
artifact.
It's
What does
basically a Reaper's dream. A Leech dream, sorry.
Yeah, well, the spell needs to stay in effect in order for him to not continue
True.
to age, which
But
is
still.
unfortunate for any would-be immortalists. But yeah, okay. So morning ritual, dropping blood into this pendant.
Whispering his secrets and
Mhm.
casting a spell.
What is Kessin doing with the morning? I imagine
Hmm.
Kessin. Is Kessin staying on the ship or on board lodgings?
It's not done correctly.
I think I should make sure they've not done anything unsupervised. I definitely would be going back to check on the ship, especially after the comment from before that there was a ship disappearing. It's like, what? What ship? So I'd
Right.
I'd go back and see how everyone's
Cool.
doing.
My general question is like, is Kessin, or it sounded from last time like that Kessin, along with the rest of his crew, is just, they don't get a room on the inn. The crew's not paying for that, or the ship's not paying for that. They're just sleeping in their normal hold, but at anchor, which is normal and standard for crews who don't have
Yeah,
means. But
yeah.
yeah, so you return at the end of that day. The ship, I forget its name, the something Rose, is still there. It is anchored. The crew remain at the ship. The quartermaster's still on board as the quartermaster has to stay. Uh, the crew come back at the end of the day to sleep in their bunks. Kessin probably gets a little bit of ribbing from his uh, bodyguard escorts, presumably friends at this point, about how much wandering off he's been doing. He's been seeing someone on shore,
There
dipping his
is
pen in
a
some ink.
special
Hehe.
there is a special phrase that I learned long ago when it comes to describing both player characters and NPCs that you know. These are people I've met.
Ain't you?
I do not tie my fate to anyone else's.
Hmm. Um, cool. But yeah, so they get back. They pass their evening without any. Uh, yeah, they pass their evening without any other sort of events. Everyone is happy that Kesson is back. Um,
Of course, I
John,
am very popular.
right?
Sorry.
And what is Kesson doing with their morning?
Oh, sorry, me.
Yes.
Morning is going to be well, I did technically have a I'm going to be testing something, I think. I don't have well, actually no, I do have a spell in mind for this technically. Also heightened sensible of course have been gone now. I'm actually something which I'm starting to do, I feel, would be testing what I can actually do with my abilities, including um I do want to start like seeing what I can find in deeper waters, quite literally, not figuratively. So whilst in the harbor, um I might spend some time seeing how deep I can go, using a spell to improve those senses and I'd be able to, my ability to stay in the water for extended periods of time. So this would be effectively, where is it? I think it would be
So what?
body control.
So Kesson wants to swim deep. Right. So
Yes.
that means sort of reducing the amount of oxygen a body needs, reducing taking control of
Yeah, body
instincts
control would be
to
this with
breathe
it.
in
Yeah.
deeply, right? That's what Kessin is, going for,
Hmm.
to rule those parts of their life's pattern. Um,
Yeah. I'm essentially Kessin is essentially trying to. My God, this allegory might be getting on the head. I just realized, but they're basically trying to turn themselves into Aquaman. They're becoming a merman, and they're trying to see as deep as they can go. But they actually do have a specific goal in mind. It's not just a case of like testing the abilities. They're also trying to um see what flora and fauna they can find. They want to go deep and deep. At the moment, they're just doing this, testing this in the harbor though, which is relatively shallow waters.
mm.
So
So Kessin
you want me?
is yeah. So I don't care all that much about the
Okay.
spellcasting rolls. You can try it until it goes off. You're not under any pressure right now. But something that I need to become better about asking, because you all are Wisdom 8 presently, is this something that Kessin could have done without magic, with little or no risk? This swimming to the
Hmm.
bottom of the harbor. As you said, it's not a particularly deep harbor.
No. It isn't. You're right. And again, this is definitely Kessin flexing and trying to spend like almost casual time under the water, etc. So it's definitely a case of them he is being arrogant to an extent.
Okay.
Is that
Um,
advice?
and this
It
is
would, I mean,
definitely in service of his or their obsession. Yeah.
yeah. This is in
Okay.
service of their obsession, which where the fuck did I put it? Oh, there. A little, yeah, because they do want to explore the bounty of life, and
Mm-hmm.
that means going to deeper places. This might also technically be tied, as mentioned, to their vice to some degrees because they are curious.
Mm. Okay. Well, roll me 3 dice then.
3 dice are being rolled.
No successes. All right. So Kessin goes to suffers our first act of hubris and drops to
Oh
Wisdom
no.
7. Uh, you are no longer enlightened. You are understanding. Um, so what wisdom represents in the game is sort of the character's understanding of consequence and you know right and quote unquote right and proper use of magic, wise use of magic to be self-referential. What does this feel like, seem like, sort of how does this new sort of understanding of what is the right way to use magic manifest like for Kesson?
Hmm. I think there is a. Yeah, I don't think Kesson really. I mean, there is, of course, worry and concern to a degree. I mean, obviously, starting at Wisdom 8, like they initially, I would believe that they are more concerned about being found out, as it were. They realize both practically and instinctually that this is not something you want to be doing in front of people all the time. And probably early on, they realize that there is something weird happens to humans, to be sure. However, at this point, I think that they are just. Kesson is being. Why shouldn't I use these abilities like this? Why shouldn't I just indulge in pretty much whatever I want? What furthers my goals? And as far as how they view things, they're probably Keston's probably becoming a little bit more like not exactly lax. It's more about finding that barrier, that reach of how far they're going to literally, both literally and figuratively, reach for something. And whilst before they were being a bit cautious, now it's more a case of, you know what? I bet I could do this in the open sea. I bet I could go right down and find Davy's locker itself. I feel like that's a and there's no real question about that not being a worthy use of such powers.
Okay. Well,
They're not helping anyone, but they're not helping anyone. They're not necessarily even further knowledge. It's just because they can do it.
yeah, and particularly since Kessin is now understanding instead of enlightened. This seems right. Like Kessin probably Kessin reaches out, grabs bits of their own pattern, twists them around, seals off the parts that require air from the rest. Does this act of will onto the world, and I imagine there's a bit of looking around and noticing, well, nothing happened. Why not? Um, which means that similar sorts of acts of magic which could have been done through mundane means no longer risk wisdom loss. So I imagine that their understanding has changed in this way. And based on what you've said, I think the megalomaniacal condition fits. First off, go ahead and take a beat from chancing or from risking the act of hubris. You get a beat whenever you risk hubris. And I've put the megalomaniacal condition on your sheet.
Is
Uh,
it an Arcan beats
Okay.
or a normal beats?
it is good question.
Should be Arcan, right?
Yeah, wisdom.
I believe it is, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, an arcane beat. So the megalomaniacal condition, basically, your character is so high on their own sense of their own aptitude and power that they are, you know, basically driven even more strongly towards their own goals. They gain an additional selfish vice and a dominate others obsession that replaces one of their current obsessions, so long as she maintains this condition. That isn't entirely in keeping. So maybe instead of dominate
Yeah, maybe
others, we
Repent is
reword it to,
better.
or we say something like you know, pers- you know,
Maybe Rampant is a bit better because it's like using magic indiscriminately to solve every little problem.
Sure, but what I'm getting at from
Look,
what Kessin has said is that Kessin think I could swim to the bottom of the sea. I could do all of these things. So maybe
Okay.
pursue goals single-mindedly or something. I'm trying to figure out a way, but to phrase it that gets exactly what I want. But what I'm thinking is you are so single-minded on your goals that you use
mhm.
others as sort of resources without particular care, which gets at the same
Also,
feel
can
as
I
dominate others, but not necessarily.
Also,
Go ahead.
also, Dalian, there's nothing wrong with using magic to cut the crusts off of my sandwiches.
Oh, yeah, that's why, Rampant has a willed magic indiscriminately obsession,
Right.
which I
Um,
guess would
okay.
fit.
Look, I'm from money. Okay, I'm used to a certain standard of living that I've
That's
not seen
true.
in a while.
That's true.
Um, yeah. Okay. Cool. So your spell goes off though. You spend a lovely morning swimming through the admittedly somewhat muddy waters of the near bay. You flit around underneath ships until you get out into the sort of deeper, clearer waters. You need to seldom for air, very rarely. So you sort of spend the morning just swimming languidly through the near. Uh, you probably don't get all the way out to the reefs, but sort of the near waters and watching the fish swim about you. Which brings us next to Pascal. How does Pascal spend the morning?
So after the whole ordeal of yesterday, um, getting unraveled, learning about other mage perspectives, Pascal's probably going to try to have a slower morning. Ever since his awakening, he's been trying to take more times to collect his thoughts. So no magic, just like, uh, a sort of like meditative exercise then,
Okay,
Just like,
cool. Um, And last but not least is John. John wakes up in you know, the room. I forget if we established that John has a separate room for Arnaud or they're sharing a room, but you wake up in the inn. It's the
Yeah.
sheets aren't the greatest, but you are warm and alive.
Yeah, I think John specifically, has their privacy, and given they kind of had that separate room for Kesson
Right, right.
the other night, they've probably just taken over that, and I think what John has been doing is really, after the day's events yesterday, is um, really kind of thinking about um, what they want to do going forward, because they've found these three other people who can also see the same things, um, these other kind of points of reference, and they have different perspectives, and that's kind of very complementary to John's. And I think in John's mind, um, he's kind of he thinks of them as seers, and is very interested in the in kind of keeping in contact with these other seers, and seeing things together and getting their perspectives on the same thing. So um, I think that John is kind of fixing in their mind to kind of plan how to stay together, and how to um, do that while also dealing with those who can't see.
Okay. Um, so is John going out and, seeking them out this morning, or just sort of sitting and pondering and waiting for whatever the day is going to do?
Well, in the morning, I think having had time to sleep on it, John is gonna kind of use their contacts, because they are a professional ship's carpenter. Um, they're going to use their contacts to kind of find out, what sort of ships might be going to interesting places, or might have need for, like, people of roughly their description and skills.
Okay. Sounds good. Um, let me see. Contacts. That's a manipulation plus persuasion roll to utilize contacts or get them to do something, if I recall correctly, but let me check. Um, 105. Manipulation plus social skill. All right, so how does John go about this? There's a tavern downstairs where sailors are, probably having breakfast at this point. There's a port where people are going about their business. How does John go about, finding out this information?
Well, John's got some contacts with Dutch traders,
Mm-hmm.
and is kind of going to use. I want to use the taste merit. I know I pull it out every time I want to persuade someone, but if I use the taste merit to kind of, um, you know, kind of appraise some of their goods for them, maybe, and kind of show off my expertise, um, that'll kind of impress them enough that I can pump them for info about who they're selling to, who is looking for carpenters to actually, um, for a long voyage, who's kind of on the move and looking for more crew, essentially.
Okay.
It's a,
And
a wits plus craft roll for taste. Should I roll that?
I'm not gonna make you bother rolling to activate taste. I'll just give you a +1 to the roll. Give me a Manipulation plus yeah, just a persuasion roll. Or manipulation plus persuasion.
Okay, and +1 for the taste.
Yep. Unfortunate. So you spend the morning sort of going around talking to folks and trying to figure out, your goal is who needs a carpenter? Where could I find sort of gainful employment? And pretty much none of the traders that you talk to are sort of know someone who's looking for work or really even want to talk about sort of new voyages at this point. Almost every single one of them, it's uncanny to a man, just wants to rant, complain to everyone who's listening or who's willing to listen about those damn pirates. Every ship, or probably, in rapid fire aggravated Dutch, since you've sought out Dutch traders. There are probably fewer of them at this port, but there are some about you know any sort of ship coming from the windward direct, or the I forget what it's called, but the coming through the Caribbean in a westerly direction to make that loop through the Caribbean, then up the coast of the U.S. Atlantic, it's almost an inevitability that they'll get waylaid by pirates. Almost half of the ships that they finance or that they ride on as passengers or sail on seem to get waylaid by the bandits. And if you come upon a couple of them in close proximity, maybe in their stalls on the dock, you'll get really rapid ascents and them continuing to trade stories. Pirates everywhere, rats of the sea, can't throw a stone anywhere near Jamaica or near their nest Nassau without hitting a couple of pirates and then them stabbing each other for the privilege of stealing it. But yeah, you unfortunately don't find any job postings for carpenters. You do hear an awful lot about how many pirates there are, sort of plying their trade in the Caribbean waters, however.
This feels like a hint.
Right,
Okay.
anyway,
I'll
so
bear that in mind, yeah.
yeah, so that's probably a fair amount of John's morning. Next
Yes,
week,
definitely.
we've gotten to everyone in terms of things they wanted to get done in that morning. So let's move on to projects for the day. Dalian, you
Yes.
had an errand you agreed to.
Yes.
How does Dalian go about this? Does he ask anyone else about it? Does he make preparations?
That depends. Doesn't seem like let me see. Not too familiar with him right now. Yeah, he's probably gonna ask someone to come with just in case, because diving can be dangerous.
Okay.
Who might he ask though?
It's a good question.
I guess he's gonna try to find the three strange people because he doesn't know anyone else on this island really. And he's gonna try to find them.
All right. I assume that at least the land-bound ones are relatively easy to find. In this very tavern, perhaps even at breakfast downstairs. Is
Oh,
anyone
sure.
sort of conveniently breaking
Yeah.
their fast when Dalian comes downstairs? Either Pascal or probably not John, since John's been out being a little gadfly this morning.
Yeah.
Probably Pascal then.
You're probably eating some bread with salted pork on it, or whatever fare they happen to have. When Dalian, you see, Dalian's aged form come downstairs. Or young form? I forget whether it's...
Age.
Okay, aged form, yeah.
Okay.
He's using the artifact to age himself.
Right, I forgot which direction it went.
It just giving more. He's feel more taken seriously, more comfortable this way.
Hmm.
So Dalian is gonna come next to Pascal and says, "Hello, hope you slept well."
Yeah, Pascal's just gonna nod, wipe his hands around. He's pretty much done eating. He's gonna say, yeah, hope you did as well. Yesterday was a little bit hectic, I know.
Well, yeah. Uh, so, what are your plans?
I was gonna poke around with, you know, uh, something that I've got upstairs in my room. Why do you ask?
Um, would you mind accompanying me on an errand if you're not too busy?
No trouble. Yeah, I can put it off.
Oh,
I've
thank
already
you.
poked at it enough. To be honest, I wanted to get some other eyes on it anyway. So a fresh perspective will do some good.
Sure.
So what do you need to get done?
I need to go get some coral from the coral reef. Uh,
All right. Uh, point the way then.
thank
I'm
you.
not familiar as much with where the reef is, but sounds like you already have an idea of where you're going.
Oh yeah.
With that, Pascal's pretty much done eating, so he'll just put the stuff back away. Get ready to head out.
Alright.
And with that, Dalian is going to come to grab just something to eat really quickly and go out towards the ports,
What is
towards the
Dalian's
harbor.
plan for getting out to the reefs? Typically, pearl divers will, or other sorts of divers will take a small boat out
Yeah.
the distance to the whatever.
Yep.
Does Dalian have a
Yeah.
boat
He
or
ca- he came
raft or
here.
canoe or something?
Yeah, he
Cool.
came here with a small, very small boat from his home island.
Okay, cool. Um,
So
yeah,
hopefully it's still there.
yeah, it's still where you tied it up. You probably either concealed it or so did you check it in with the harbor master and pay for
Yeah.
lodging or not lodging, mooring, or did you hide under a bush somewhere?
He probably paid for lodging. It's not a big boat, so
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's still
probably
there.
not that expensive.
It hasn't gone mysteriously missing. And it doesn't take long before you are able to get it unmoored and head out towards the water. It's getting within a couple of hours of midday at this point. It sounds like you've set off relatively early just after
Yep.
breakfast, and it doesn't take very long to get out towards the reefs. The sun is beating down on you as you head out. There's not very much shade on this small boat. And before too long, you're above the sort of crystal clear waters, down towards the cascade of colors and sort of motion of the reefs beneath. Fish flitting about of various colors and sizes and shapes, uh, all over a sort of rock, a granular rock-like structure of multicolored coral, sort of stretching out before your eyes.
So Dalian is gonna look at Pascal and say, you know how to swim, right?"
Yeah, not too well, but I can manage.
"Oh, that's all right. Just and he's gonna
most
tie a rope.
most sailors don't in fact know how to swim, so it's definitely a question to ask.
Yep.
Yeah.
Um, he's gonna tie a rope around his waist and say, "I just need you to keep uh, your hand on this and just try to pull me back if something happened. Otherwise, I'll be fine."
All right, Pascal looks pretty relieved on that because he does not, in fact, know how to swim like that well at all. More than he's fallen in the water and managed to almost tread above. Um, so he'll just wrap his hands around the rope and kind of settle down into the boat.
Okay.
And
So next question is, how long can Dalian hold his breath?
um,
Dalian
probably
has stamina 3. I'm not gonna
yep.
go look for rules saying exactly how many minutes you can hold your breath for, but it's probably, a decent amount of time. Dalian has,
He has some experience
clear,
diving, I
near
think.
professional training in athletics, yeah, and also, high, well, actually, no, average resolve. So, you're able to sort of get down there. Give me a stamina plus athletics roll as Dalian, takes a deep breath and goes over the edge.
Um, couldn't I get a point of willpower back for being cautious about getting someone to help me and just pull me back if something happens?
Yeah, sure. You've taken precautions. That's cautious.
All right, then I'm gonna
Yeah, we
spend
did
that willpower
have.
point. Hmm? Go
So we
ahead.
did have long rest as well. We did have a rest as well, so we should have
Oh,
had
All
yeah.
willpower back.
right.
Yeah, everyone got
Hmm.
back a point of willpower for
F-
sleeping through the
I'm
night,
I
assuming they
forgot
slept
about
through the
it.
night.
I'm too used to being a vampire. Three successes.
Nice. Cool. So Dalian has no problem, swimming down. The water doesn't present any sort of real, obstacle to him. The fish rapidly swim away as he descends down, avoiding him as they would a, dangerous predator.
Hmm.
Give me a perception roll
Of
as
course.
Dalian approaches down towards the sort of multicolored hardscape of the coral beneath. Uh, cool.
Three successes as well.
Yep. You see. All right. So you make your way down. It takes a couple of minutes. Pascal up in the boat just sort of sees or sees and feels the rope just steadily
Yeah.
descend until Dalian reaches the floor.
And you can see
He's
that Dalian's. Oh, sorry.
I'm just gonna say, he sees coral all around. He could, reach out and touch it. But as he looks around and looks down specifically at this bit of coral that he was going to break off with his ungloved hands, he sees that there's this big, large spot of completely bleached coral that sort of he hadn't noticed before, but it's about the size of two large dinner plates, just sort of in the middle of this arm of coral. And then he looks around and sees another, and another, and another, just sort of all of them, pockmarked, almost like pox marks
Hmm.
across the coral around him. There's still, healthy bits of coral he could break off, but there's clearly some amount of unhealthiness in this coral, something that is wrong with it. And this pattern of bleaching, of, almost polka dots, is not
It
one
doesn't.
that
Yeah.
he's. Well, I mean, I don't know how much time Dalian has spent in the reefs period, but it's not a pattern of
It's
bleaching
a
or
normal
coral
for
sickness he's
corals.
ever
Yeah.
seen before. It's abnormal.
He's gonna just use his mage side just quickly.
Okay. Which arcana
Investigation.
are you adding into it?
Both ruling.
Okay, cool.
There's
So
no
you
reason to not use.
Well, I mean, other than maybe too much noise. If you
Ah,
are, trying to do an alter or arcane investigation while tripping on MDMA while you're using Mage Sight, effectively. But mechanically, no, there's no downside. Let me see. Mage Sight. Quickly look over both time and fate. Uh, okay, yeah. So, looking around, you see something hopping out to your fate sight, which sort of grabs your eye. What does active fate sight look like from Dalian's perspective? How does
um,
he filter the world?
it's probably very anthropomorphized. he probably sees. That's a good question. Let me think. He probably sees Fae like being tall, thin, androgynous humanoids. Just hmm, let me think.
So he sees
Sorry.
maybe like, fairy like fae like entities, like, small
Uh, no, very
small sprites
tall.
or something, or
No, very tall,
He's,
lanky, very tall,
he
pale,
sees
lanky
David
being.
Bowie.
okay.
No, very tall, lanky being just going around spreading mist everywhere, and maybe
Act
with some tool, maybe with some implements, depending on the kind of fate, like scissors and
hmm
string if it's cutting someone life, or maybe an amphora if it's revelation, or you know.
Okay, but he sees fate as sort of a product being a thing being manipulated by
By
figures.
unseen creature, yes.
Okay, cool. I like that. Um, so Dalian, looking about, sees sort of these figures, almost reed like wispy creatures carrying tools of craft, scissors maybe, but also sort of hoes or scythes or hammers, occasionally a chisel, and they are sort of very active here. You see a host of these creatures, almost all working in concert on these reefs, hammering at it, slamming at it, and yeah, they are all working in concert, and this place has a destiny, which isn't a thing that Dalian normally sees. Dalian's seen people probably who have sort of or sorry, I should, since this is a newly awakened game, I should step back from using the terminology, but sort of there is intentionality and direction in this place. This place has an end to which it is heading, and you can see sort of that end taking shape in the forming that these agents of fate are in the work that these agents of fate that you filter fate through your mage site are doing. You don't know necessarily the details of it without spending time to actively investigate, while also trying to hold your breath. But this place is meant for something, and something about this place just sort of jumps out to you as being out of place, of being imposed here. There's a mystery afoot.
Mm. Well, right now is not the best time to do it because he cannot hold his breath indefinitely, and casting underwater is not something he's ever done. So he's gonna gently break an healthy bits of coral and try to do the least damage possible to the coral reef.
Okay, I'm not gonna make you roll for it. So you
Okay.
reach out, you grab a bit, and as you do so, you see sort of through your mage sight, you're continuing to hallucinate, right, and sort of the bits of fate of the life of this organism, creature, whatever, changes before your eyes as you grab it. But not any more than in the same way that amputating any other thing changes
Hmm.
its fate.
And he's gonna drop his mage sight and reach for the boat.
Okay.
And
So
Pascal can probably see that he's surprisingly spry for a man of his age.
okay, you're just swimming back up.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. Yep. You make it back up without too much undue whatever. As you said, he's in good shape. And he comes up out of the boat, sopping and wet.
Got what you needed? Pascal's gonna ask.
Yeah, thank you. There's also something strange going on with the coral reef.
Um, Pascal's gonna lean over the boat slightly and squint down at it, trying to see anything, and just say, "I don't.
Seems to
Uh,
be diseased, but not
I
in any
can't."
way I've ever seen. and and he's gonna hesitate, looking at Pascal, and some. How can I say this? Some spirit things happening to it. And just as a note, um, when Dalian uses spirit, he means in a sense. It doesn't mean in a mage sense, but his
I guess
is as something from an noble woman, so he use spirits in a very large term. Anything
Hmm.
supernaturally weird is
Yeah,
spirit related to him.
he's not saying
uh
spirit in the speech.
No.
Right.
Pascal's just gonna kind of refocus his gnosis then and flip on mind sight to try to
Mhm.
just see if there's anything thinking under the water.
Well, you see sort of many thinking, or things that have minds. You see fish flitting about with their tiny little pinprick minds. You see larger minds belonging to bigger predators, sort of moving through the reef itself, sort of your out of the line of sight directly of you, but still sort of emitting out sound and water waves, moving through the coral itself, which takes the form of you know almost, glitter, like scatterings of non-mines that present themselves as sort of chaff to you.
I don't see much down there.
The coral reef is diseased, but not in any way I've ever seen, and it seemed that it's unnaturally so.
Hmm. Well, you know, best.
And some,
I don't want to stick around too long. I don't want to catch whatever it has. Then it's cursed.
uh, yeah, maybe it's cursed. I don't know. Strange, what it is. But let's go back. Thank you for accompanying me. We can go
Pascal's
back
just
to your
gonna nod,
apothecary.
non-committally.
Okay.
No trouble.
The wind is in your favor, so it's somewhat in your favor, so it takes a little bit longer for you to get back to shore than it did to head out with the westerly wind, or sorry, easterly wind. It's the direction that it's coming from is what it's called. I used to be a sailor. You make your way back in. It's about lunchtime by the time you get back. What next? Does Dalian head straight off to deposit his cargo and get the goods, or
Yes, he's gonna say, join me at the tavern. I'll buy you lunch for your help. I just need to get this coral to the apothecary first.
All right, the apothecary. Are they gonna be able to tell you if it's diseased or not?
Probably not. I picked a healthy part of it, but I'll warn them.
Okay.
But I think they're more interested in humans than coral.
Hmm.
okay?
Um. Yeah, all this talk of like biological things kind of goes over Pascal's head. So he's just gonna just kind of like be like, yeah, I'm sure you know what to do with it. Good luck.
Thank you.
Cool. So you make your way over to the apothecary. He's not hard to find. He's on the high street. You make your way into that tiny little, I don't know, closet of a shop space again. Um, he's there. He is continuing to be industrious and sort of refilling some jars and vials and whatnot, taking things on and off the scale as you enter. And he looks up at you with sort of very, cloudy, sort of rheumatism lined eyes. But he squints and seems to recognize you. Uh, oh, back again, sir.
Yes, hello, sir. I I got you coral for you. Uh, but I have bad news. Coral
Oh,
reef is diseased. I got a healthy part, but some of it is dead, and it's looking very good.
Oh, that's not good. Might need to look elsewhere for coral if we can't save this one. Well, diseased how? Did you?
I never seen something like it. It got some circle-shaped spot of it was dead. It's like it didn't look like any disease coral I ever seen before. The
You
whole
know, he
reef was splotched like that.
Yeah. You know, he agrees with you. He's no naturalist, but he's not heard of you know, coral dying like that. Normally I guess coral bleaching isn't as common in these times with
Mm,
the, you know,
yep.
with climate change not having sort of kicked into full gear yet. But when coral bleaches, normally it's progressive and spreads sort of in waves rather than polka
It's
dotted.
almost like something is coming out and touching me, if it makes sense.
Well, I hope for our sakes that it, you know, leaves some coral left for the rest of us.
I hope
And
so.
at that, he mixes or he sort of mixes anew the powders in the formulation that he'd done yesterday, and hands it over to you in exchange for the bit of coral, which he, greedily sort of starts eyeing over, almost as if he's forgotten that you're there.
Thank you.
He doesn't reply. It's unclear whether he doesn't care enough to reply or he didn't hear you over the sound of his pestle in the mortar crushing the coral, sort of powdering it, destroying it, sort of turning the organisms that were within into into a fine dust.
That's fine. He's gonna nod and leave the man to his work.
Okay. Let's see. Coming back around, what is John doing with his afternoon? I'm imagining that John is coming back in time for lunch and probably just for the through the power of plot magic sees Pascal also coming in. Either
Yeah,
coming in or sitting waiting for lunch.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, definitely. I think of all of the seers, um, John, rightly or wrongly, probably has the idea that Pascal is someone who knows about pirates.
Mm-hmm. Pascal certainly looks like a sailor.
Yeah. So John is kind of has been possessed by this idea of, oh yeah, I mean, we could, go the humble, boring route of, chartering with, uh, at most a privateer maybe, or like a kind of a trading vessel just to get places. But now this kind of romantic notion of the pirate has sunk into his head, and he wants to know more about pirates, and Pascal seems like the person to talk to. So pretty much, John is just bowling up and uh, you know just breaking the question like, what do you know about pirates?
Um, Pascal's gonna be like a little bit surprised. It's definitely an interesting thing to like just straight up ask. He's gonna say, well, good afternoon to you too, but I'm pretty familiar. I've done my time on companies.
Question. Are you just sort of, asking this in, having this conversation, at normal speaking voice in the plain middle of the tavern? Are you, hushed voices off in the corner?
I think John is a little bit conspiratorial here. He's been thinking about the seers and the ones who can't see, and is just a little bit. John is thinking of this as seer business.
Yeah,
This
Pascal's
you're
gonna
the ship, so
gonna probably
it's
discuss it more.
conspiratorial.
Pascal's gonna return in like a still quiet but maybe less like hushed voice, if that makes sense. Like trying to be still like casual about it, but obviously not loud.
Cool. So like John is going to kind of expound on how, he thinks that they would do well to kind of sequester themselves with a crew, with a ship where they can, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Like kind of experience, all these amazing things. If what we've seen is just what's on this small island in the Caribbean, imagine what else is out there on the high seas. Um, so John is kind of pitching this almost as what better crew for people of our. I don't think John uses caliber, but kind of talents, I think, and perspectives. Um, what better crew, what better ship to go with than pirates?
Pascal's gonna pretty quickly get on board, nodding along as John expounds this. Could be good to go without an overarching sort of authority as well. Gives us more ability to actually delve into these strange happenings.
Exactly, and without kind of interference from and John is now very much married to his terminology here, and starts sort of calling them hasn't quite settled on one for sleepers yet, but kind of the unseeing, uh, and is just kind of is almost like pitching it to Pascal as a kind of, this is a word, you know what I'm talking about, the unseeing.
Yeah, Pascal will incorporate the terminology as well. Pascal will kind of sit back and go, plus, I guess these sort of tricks we can do would also make it easier to engage in piracy. It's certainly an
John hadn't even considered engaging in piracy, but the idea is very exciting.
We'll need to figure out a way to still gain income, pay the crew, but should be doable. Do you have much experience yourself?
John kind of explains like his experiences mostly as a ship's carpenter. Been on ships, but um, mostly in a kind of more strict hierarchy. Mostly just kind of working on the hull, working on the ship, and very very kind of focused on that stuff. So would be valuable. Has very particular skills, but is also quite specialized.
Well, I don't have a ship myself, but I could probably rally us up some crew. I have some friends who do that sort of thing. I can frequent the places that allow us to get privateers.
That's a brilliant start. Yeah. John kind of had in mind more of kind of attaching themselves to an existing pirate crew, but if they can find themselves a ship, that would work if they can simply find a crew for it as well.
I'll get in contact with some privateers.
Almost
Nice.
pirates, but they have papers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
It's like legal piracy.
Right. So the thing about that is that the war is over. The War of the Spanish Succession ended last year or earlier this year. I forget the exact details. The year is 1714, which means that there's a lot of former privateers out there who are now out of work and who have had their letters of marque essentially invalidated. If the European powers aren't at war anymore, then they're no longer, they don't have a sanctioned target to go after. If England's not at war with the Spanish, then they don't have diplomatic remit to go after Spanish ships, which means that the waters of the Caribbean are flooded with desperate, out of work sailors and former privateers who are possessed of, these same sort of romantic notions of the what piracy could do for them, the opportunities it opens to them. And this is part of the reason why the waters are teeming in this part of the world with pirates. This maybe isn't something that the characters have specific, numbers on, but at the time, it's estimated that a quarter of ships setting ship voyages setting sail at the time were intercepted by pirates.
Oh wow.
Like a massive problem. And so yeah, throw a stone, hit a pirate. They aren't privateers anymore. They're former privateers, and it's not that big of a nudge to get a former privateer into a current pirate.
Now I have a sudden idea, and I want to just talk about this out of character with everybody. Um, but what if rather than trying to get our own boat and hire our own crew and things, what if we went along with another boat that got, maybe not attacked but accosted by pirates, and then tried to get our way onto their crew?
I like it.
It's a possibility.
Okay.
I will note that at least one player is presently on part of a relatively dodgy crew of mariners. I don't know how we feel about sort of tagging on with Kessen's crew as sort of an option, whether, that
Yeah, I
ship
wasn't sure
ends up
what
being the ship or a vehicle towards getting, you know, somewhere else and then finding the ship, but that's a possibility you can talk about.
Yeah, how do you feel about that, Henry?
Um. Hmm. What about me again? So the idea is to have to latch onto an existing crew, right?
Hmm.
Yeah,
It'd probably be a bit
find
easier, yeah.
ourselves some legit pirates. Well, not legit, sorry, some bona fide pirates, and kind of present our specialized skills to them, and kind of glomp on with them.
Hmm.
I think that would be a lot easier than trying to get in like a whole boat.
So basically, you want us to be a cadre of cats, where we go and adopt some humans. Say, meow,
Exactly.
adopt us.
Exactly.
They're like, okay.
Uh, yeah, so mainly my thinking
Yeah.
about this is sort of what I would think about is how much because this crew is sort of Kessin's thing. It's a merit on Kessin's sheet, Kessin's sort of pre-existing contacts. How much do we feel positively or negatively as the rest of the characters about having sort of such a central part of the chronicle being so strongly tied to a particular character, at least in the beginning, until it becomes all of your crew? And maybe it's they catch a ride with this crew until they get to Nassau or Kingston or wherever they're heading, and then they start forming their own crew or find another crew that or whatever. Something to throw out there. It's not something I care about one way or another.
Could you tell us, Henry? Could you tell us a bit more about sort of Kessen's ship? Like what are they as a merit to Kessen? And because I was under the impression they were just traders, but I didn't. If they're the dodgy sort, then maybe.
Um, I didn't really like flesh them out like individually kind of thing. The merit wise, what I've invested there is technically you could say 4 merits, although it's really only one which is specifically tied to the crew. They have one status merit, which is the crew. Then I have one which is a library, which I imagine is on the ship there. And then I have 2 dots and resources, which I think are tied to the idea of being part of that crew and having the access to resources. I kind of
Okay.
imagine them as being at least originally privateer crew, whether they are privateers now or not. Eh. Um, but no, I didn't really flesh them out like from a lore wise, so that's
Yeah.
something that can be done as a group.
Yeah. And if that you do decide to go in a different direction and it doesn't make sense, that Kessin is still actively, part of that crew, then obviously Sanctity of Merits, you can put the merit dot elsewhere. Um but that's true for anyone and all merits, especially of, the social sort.
Yeah,
Um
yeah. I'm happy with the idea, at least in the short term, of kind of going along uh, with Keston's crew and Keston's boat. That seems to be our best connection there for just having a boat, and then kind of getting out there on the high seas, and if not kind of jumping in with some pirates, at least kind of meeting some pirates and maybe like forming alliances or seeing what their deal is, whether they have any seers, that sort of thing.
Okay, cool. So Henry, you said you hadn't been clear on whether they were or this crew were bona fide pirates yet, but they are unemployed. So maybe could be persuadable by their new cats. Is maybe how we envision this going. Okay, cool. So let's take a 5-minute break. And go to tend to the needs of our biology, and I will see you back here at 3:20. I lied, it's in 7 minutes. All right,
Cool. See you then.
back in a bit. Welcome back to Horizon and Marmoris, a Mage the Awakening Second Edition chronicle. Uh, Before the break, the prospect of finally or turning to piracy had finally been brought in. Chekhov's pirates, as it were, and John and Pascal were having a conversation in hushed voices in a corner of this tavern in Antigua. What is Kesson doing with their afternoon?
Hmm. Um. Hmm. I don't think I'm thinking about piracy right now. I'm probably thinking about what exactly that weird tree anchor was about, and maybe there's other strange mutated life. Well, I wouldn't use the word mutation, of course. No, I wouldn't. But strange properties of native life on this island right now. As to what I'd be doing, hmm. I would spend some time writing up and doing some sketches of what I saw earlier, as well as from early in the day from my deep dives.
Okay. So just spending the afternoon sketching megalomaniacally.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. All right. Dalian, you have your medicine. What is your plan for the rest of the day? You probably return to your
He
room.
was no, he was going to pay Pascal some lunch for his help.
That's true. You probably find John in the corner with him.
Oh, hi.
John has gotten like just with somebody like agreeing with him and kind of uh, they're both quite into this pirate idea. John has gotten very excited about being a pirate and um, in hushed tones says to Dalian, explains the idea quite excitedly, like we're gonna try and be pirates.
Seer pirates.
Seer?
And
Exactly.
Pascal says seer like he's still testing out the word.
Daniel looks a bit confused at the seer word. Seer?
John kind of explains like like us, like we see things, we have different perspectives. We can see
Oh,
the truth.
Compared to the unsighted, was that the word you used, John?
The unseers, the sightless. I don't know.
Unseeing, I think it was.
Unseeing, yeah, yeah, yeah. John is kind of like using a different word every time almost.
it's Daniel looks a bit confused, but he returns back with something to drink and something to eat, and sits down and say, I mean, you don't sound sure about yourself. You just summon sea spirits. That's
Well,
that's
that's
uncommon. I know people who's like Obe, a person that, I mean, from where I come from, you have one in every community almost, maybe one more than one.
hmm
that,
Uh,
that's
s-
gonna get his attention.
It's normal.
yeah. So, sort of for context for what Dalian probably has experienced, Dalian has a mentor who is an Obeah practitioner. Obeah being sort of a
Yep.
well,
Sort
it's
of
sort of a a European imposed term for a very wide range of
yeah.
Caribbean cultural and spiritual practices.
Yep. Mm.
And it includes a lot of the
Most of it,
things that. Sorry, go
yeah.
ahead.
Most of it being a very syncretized practice from
hmm
African and Native Caribbean uh, beliefs and
hmm
working magics, and
Yeah.
it's a hodgepodge of a lot of things.
The exact practice sort of varies based on, where in the islands one is
Mhm.
performing this spiritual practice, but the general sort of broad strokes for what one could expect are, sort of entreaties with spirits and, workings of magic or, rites and rituals which purport to bring about, good or bad fortune, bring about health. Things like that are sort of, common, or you could expect that sort of thing from someone who purports to practice obeah, but the exact partitioner or particulars will depend very strongly upon the tradition of any given practitioner. So this is background that Dalian sort of knows, even if
Yep.
the others don't or haven't heard of this word
This
before.
this is very much news to John, yeah, and kind of. I mean, does Dalian explain this stuff to them? Or?
It simply explains that I'll be a person, people who treat the spirits of ancestor or other spirits, and
So, like John is kind of interested in that because, like, can totally see why Dalian would sort of connect with that, being part of his culture, I presume.
Yep.
But John is kind of obviously not part of that culture, and kind of um, is fascinated by the idea of uh, there being a connection between their kind of their seers and because John is still thinking it in those terms, their seers and what somebody else is experiencing completely outside of their culture, and that kind of hits a note with John, um, of being this rather than what Dalian's presenting, which is like oh yeah, it's just this thing, that it being like a kind of continuum
Yeah.
rather than two
It
separate
seems
things.
very normal for Dalian that some people can
Yeah,
practice
yeah.
Sobeah, can interact with spirits.
So I guess like John is very interested in this perspective that Dalian has, and but is kind of clearly still like fitting it around his plans and his sort of viewpoint, um, and wants to know more about it, but like um, I guess it's kind of probing Dalian for like is there any reason that a number of them wouldn't get together and sort of pool their resources and their perspectives. We clearly see things differently.
Yes,
So
there's
how
people
would
that
that work?
do that. I mean, if you want more information, I don't know a lot about it. Just starting, I guess, but I can take you to a woman who teach me those things.
Cool. And would it require, slightly out of character here, would it require a boat to get to it?
Yes.
It
Okay,
would.
that,
It's a
then John is very much
That
on
was a
board.
good early stop.
Yeah. From what I recall, Dalian is from a nearby
Nearby
island.
island, yeah.
So, if
From
we're looking
Maroon
at
community.
the carte, I was going to put a like pin character that I could move around here, but I never got around to it. It would probably be, one of these smaller islands nearby, like Montserrat or Nevis
Mhm.
or a tiny one like that.
We're all
It's
fairly new to this sort of thing, right? Pascal's gonna say that like out loud.
yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Maybe it will be the best if we consult someone who's a little bit more experienced with this whole other world.
yeah. John is very much interested in that.
It's fine. I mean, it's on my home island, and I still need to get my father some medicine. So if you want to come, I can take you to my teacher as well.
I think that what John wants to impress on Dalian is that you know we should we should form some kind of company here, the four of us, as people with different perspectives and who have a bit of experience together, and we should kind of use the opportunity here on Antigua to get an actual full ship and crew, because I'm sure we could get to the smaller island, maybe just kind of hopping along. But once we're on a smaller island, that's then difficult to get a proper journey going, isn't it?
I guess I'm fine with that. I don't have any other plans, but I mean, I have, but they're requiring me to travel around a lot. So.
That's true.
Great. Wonderful.
Everyone's looking for something, it seems like. Okay. So you guys had made plans to look at Pascal's artifact. Before we sort of, I assume, move on to that, I wanted to get back to Kessin. So you're drawing. You've spent the afternoon sort of sketching these very sort of close drawings of what you've seen. Fish that are swimming about that you got right up in their face with. Maybe even used some life magic to make them do your bidding and present themselves to your eye. And you're getting some very detailed drawings. At this point, probably one of the officers of the ship, I'll say maybe, the quartermaster of the crew. Did I give him a name? Gabriel. Gabriel, looks over your shoulder as you're sort of sitting, and gives a low whistle and remarks, "It's quite detailed, friend. Did you get the fish to come up and give you a kiss?"
Oh, well, you know that they love me. Jealous?
Let's see. How am I imagining, Gabriel? Now I have to make a Conca entry. I imagine Gabriel's relatively humorless, because he's probably got too much on his hands, like wrangling all of these assholes, and also the money's not coming in. So it's like, no, I get by just fine with more conventional partners, friend. Um, or he probably, calls you Kessin. And says, yeah, I don't know. I didn't have a whole lot that I wanted to sort of get from this scene, other than sort of establish that someone is remarking on Kessin's sort of work and Kessin's sort of familiarity with the wildlife, and sort of give him a
Okay.
opportunity to expound.
I doubt that you'd appreciate exactly what I'm doing, but as long as I get opportunities to make a record of the natural world, that's usually reward enough for me being on this crew.
Um,
Usually. The goal's still
the
good, though.
mhm. Okay. And Kessin does know how to swim, so that's not unusual. But I think Gabriel will ask again, but no, seriously, how did you get so close to the fish?
Actually, there is a term of art which I think Kessin would adopt, both in a way to kind of probably jokingly with the crew at this point, but also like if at some point John is like, "Well, what term do you use?" kind of thing is what Kessin would use, and it is specifically Kessin refers to it as his legerdemain. It's just something you wouldn't understand. It's my legerdemain.
Ugh, this asshole with his fancy words. All right, fine. Keep your secrets. And he'll tell, or actually, he probably will head off. There are tasks that remain to be done, but as he's walking away, he'll say, Captain says that we should be ready for departure in a couple of days. We're nearly done restocking, and he's got a lead on a merchant uh, freight contract that we can pick up, carrying some powdered assholes from Barbados back up to Virginia.
Well, we both know that. I mean, we both know that Captain Morgan. I'm going to say Captain Morgan. I'm committed to this. Captain Morgan is is only captain because of their braggart ways. I mean, we both know that it's the quartermaster that really calls the shots. Do you really think it's worth it? Maybe there's an easier way to do things.
Well, the larder is empty, and we already
Is
didn't
it?
have or the larder is emptying. Money has been tight, and even in the best of times, being on a ship crew is not the best for one's health or hygiene or sanity. But it's probably been sort of a consistent point of stress for the crew, at least for the officers, that like the war ended, the money is running out, and they've had trouble securing steady income, especially not with the Dutch India Company sort of muscling them out of work. Because as people are, or everyone who is involved in shipping of any sort is probably aware, if you attempt to do trade outside of the sanction of the Dutch India Company, you can expect bankruptcy through legions of paper flinging armies or soldiers.
Probably Kesson probably rolls. Yeah, probably Kesson rolls his eyes at the mention of that company. Then probably stretches out almost cat-like. I'm gonna play into this, and thinks like drawing a thought out, making a bit of a show of it. There's some interesting people on the island. I may have heard that I've been out for a bit, kind of meeting the locals, and well, I might have some people who could make good crewmates.
More mouths
Could
to
make
feed
this
then. He probably
wow
says that
working.
dryly. Yeah.
Yeah, working hands though. I would not underestimate them, and well, maybe you could use some more legerdemain. Keep the fish still until you can spear them.
Okay. Give me a manipulation plus persuasion roll, and you can add your crew status to this. What I'm envisioning is not necessarily that you're trying to, get a agreement right out of him here and there that, yeah, sure, join, but sort of planting the seed that there's, that these people could be useful in solving their money problems.
Okay. Manipulation, persuasion. I have no persuasion. I do have subterfuge though.
It's not really
But
subterfuge. You've laid it out pretty
okay, fair
clearly.
enough.
But
Get
you can
plus
add your
one for
status, as I said.
that gives me 3. I'll spend willpower on this. That gives me 6.
All right, one
I
success.
needed it.
Yeah, that's enough to sort of plant the seed in his mind that, all right, we trust this asshole's judgment for whatever reason. He's done right by us, and if he knows some people with skills, a crew's always looking for skilled labor. You didn't mention sort of, the prospect of engaging in illegal activity or banditry or anything like that, so that's not really something he's thinking about at this point, but you could bring it up later. Okay, at that, he'll probably walk away, but sort of, you can tell from his body language that he's pondering, and not outright rejecting your proposition. But he also says, go talk to, he mentions a couple of people. They might need help finding certain something in port that we've been chasing down. Make yourself useful. You can kiss fish later.
Mm-hmm. That's a euphemism. We're going. I think for. I think it's best to set a situation whereby they can't refuse to do some piracy. What's that to see?
Just a little bit of piracy. Okay, cool. So coming back to the others, you finished your discussion of piracy. You've made some plans, presumably. What are you doing now? Your your cold empty lunch plates sort of sit before you. They probably get cleaned up. What now?
So yesterday, Pascal mentioned he had an interesting mirror, and now that he knows that these other seers, have different perspectives, he's gonna once again mention that he would like for them to maybe take a look at it, see if they can help him understand it, because he's a little bit stumped.
Yeah, John is more than happy to do that.
Sure, yeah. Dalian is also, if he's invited.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I'll also take the time to thank Dalian for paying.
Where do you do it?
With that, yeah,
In
Pascal's
the
just gonna.
room or somewhere,
Um,
isolated in the outdoors?
the mirror's kind of big, so I think just the room, if it's big enough. I
How
can't
big is
imagine
it
that.
again? Is it like a
Um,
standard
it's
vanity
like
mirror or something?
yeah, it's about like person sized. Probably a
Okay.
little bit smaller. Like one person could probably pick it up, but it
Okay.
would be unwieldy, right?
Okay. So you all head upstairs to the room that Pascal is renting. Go in. And do you have the mirror, covered at all, or hidden away,
Yes.
or is it just sort
Uh,
of leaning up against the wall?
the room would be pretty neat, and it would look very much like it's like a place to sleep in. It doesn't seem like Pascal would spend, too much time in it. Everything's just kind of right in its place. And then in the corner, covered by like a rougher sort of tarp or just kind of like heavier cloth, would be the shape of the mirror.
Okay.
Pascal would open the door and invite them in.
Okay.
Say,
Everyone is inside.
not much space. All right, here it is. As he sweeps the cloth right off.
What do they say?
To
Uh,
Mhm.
no,
Uh,
go ahead. Go ahead.
Sweeping the cloth off, what's underneath is kind of a iron framework for a sort of it's a simple mirror in regards to the frame, just like duller black iron, maybe some twists here and there, but the real interesting thing is that almost all of the glass uh, that makes up the mirror seems to be cracked and warped. It twists or bends concave or convexly, changing depending on which shard of the glass it is. And many of them are slightly off color, um, creating a strange effect when you take in the whole thing. Oddly, there's no accumulated dust or anything on the mirror's glass itself. It seems like perfectly like uncovered.
Okay. Yeah. Everyone sees this. And aside from the aforementioned weird sort of visual effects, the glass as you look at it presently seems to function like glass. It reflects parts of the room, albeit in a sort of almost fractal sort of disassociated pattern of various a sort of non-contiguous sort of picture of various aspects of the room, cracked and reflected and warped.
Pascal's gonna take a look at it and go, ugh, you know, gives me some off vibes after yesterday. Reminds me of being turned into those parts.
Yeah, not the most pleasant experience.
I think
Dalian,
we're the. No, go ahead.
Dalian is going to use his mage sight to watch if there's anything wrong with the mirror.
Okay.
His
Which arcanum or arcana are incorporated in your
fate
mage
and
sight?
time.
Okay, cool. So you open up your the site. You sort of start to view this mirror through the prism of your understanding of fate and time, and nothing jumps out to you with regards to fate. It certainly has a part in the world around it, but it doesn't have any
Well done.
particular sort of end that it's driven towards by the strands of fate as you understand them. Uh, Time, something about it sort of pops at you. Something about sort of, well, how does Dalian sort of view time through his active mage sight?
Um, very more encounters like this time as branching vines and thorn, very naturalistic in its view, opposed to the very anthropomorphic view of fate that he has.
Okay, yeah. So, um, most things Dalian looks at through sort of the lens of his time sight. He's looking at things as they appear now. He's looking at the spot in the thorns, in the branching paths that it currently occupies, and the little sort of minute twists and turns of the thorns being, woven together or split apart as time changes, or as the stuff of the future before his very eyes gets woven into the present and then becomes the past. But this mirror, it seems loose, whereas the sort of cord of time of most things looks like a thread that's coming together in a loom. This thing looks sort of like almost like a ball of cotton. Sort of, it's compact. It's sort of together and has a shape that definitely is formed, unlike the loose, diffuse stuff of the future. But it's not tightly wound the way a thread or a cord normally is.
Okay. He's gonna do something else. He's gonna spend a point of mana to actually try to summon. I mean, get the attention of his watcher.
Yeah, oh, I was gonna
Uh,
say, while Dalian does that, Pascal's just going to kind of finish up saying all that he's managed to figure out to John and Dalian, if Dalian's still listening.
he is, but
Sure.
he's just listening at the same time, so he's probably not, you know,
Yeah, he's probably, listening with only half an ear or
one ear.
something,
Yeah.
but Pascal is, explaining.
Mostly
Uh,
just like, sometimes I see strange twists of the light. No, if we're seers, sometimes I feel like this thing might be seeing back
mhm.
in some sense.
Okay. Um, what is John doing?
Well, with I mean, is John getting anything with their peripheral sight? First of all, is there any like an active sort of weirdness going on?
There is not presently an active
Okay.
effect as you walk into the room. The mirror's not, it's not doing anything as far as you can tell, but after Dalian has been silent for a couple of seconds and just staring at it, everyone feels their peripheral catching something. Whatever that feeling is, I forget everyone. Um, and as Dalian spends that point of mana, and that expenditure of mana catches on everyone's supernal awareness.
And John would know sort of which arcana it roughly sits under. So I'm guessing it would
Um,
be fate.
Fate
it
and
fate.
forces.
Cool. Well, John kind of takes note of that sensation because I don't think John's had a lot of exposure to fate.
Mhm.
But
Okay.
with nothing coming from the mirror, John is also going to look at it specifically with spirit sight,
Yeah.
which is a kind of everything. Everything is a sort of cloud of resonances and a
Mhm.
kind of cloud of synesthesia and sort of this fuzziness where you can kind of taste and smell and see the resonances of things, and specifically wanting to know what resonances are on and around the mirror.
Yeah, so the mirror tastes like real quickly, so before I get back to Dalian, the mirror tastes of breaking and reformation. It tastes of iron, and it tastes of sort of the sharpness of cutting. And those are sort of the vibes of resonance that John gets off of it. Cutting, breaking, and obviously the iron it's made of.
Okay, cool. Over to Dalian, I think.
Okay, so you spend the mana. Has Dalian summoned, or not summoned, but called the presence of his supernal watcher before since his awakening?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
So, mechanically, in the merit, if it says you can spend a point of mana to sort of
Yeah.
bring about the presence of your supernal watcher, etc., etc. But has Dalian done this before, and what is Dalian's
Yes.
understanding of what he's doing and why it's bringing
Uh,
this about?
he's understanding this as offering sacrifice to the spirit that guided him during his awakening, and so it's just like a transaction. You give something, you get to get here.
Okay. So cool. That's fine. You activate your watcher appear. Yeah, so Dalian looks at this, this thing, this diffuse cloud of unwoven thorns, and spends the mana, offers it up, offers up a bit of the sort of breath of power that's
Yeah.
within him, up to sort of the thorns about him, and out of the branching uh, pathways of you know out of the sort of the branching pathways of intention and direction around him, this thin figure, clad in emerald and clad in small crown, or in a crown of gold, sort of materializes aside or beside him, also facing the mirror. It's silent. It does not speak with you, but its presence sort of gives you that same sense of comfort and guidance that you
Mm-hmm.
experienced in your awakening when it was
Oh, is
leading you through the thorns.
uh, is he reflected in a mirror by any chance? Under his sight.
Um, it
I mean,
is.
they. It's not a he or she or anything
It
like
is
that.
not.
It is not reflected. Huh.
No.
It's done in let's sort of saying of and before saying it's very strange. It looks like it's condensed, like it's not here, but also here in the present and future, and it's not reflecting spirits. I don't know. Maybe it's more. I think my teacher said something about mirrors can being portals also for spirits. Maybe it's like that. Maybe it's portal of some kind, not a mirror per se. Mm.
John's going to kind of share sort of what he's experienced. Kind of disagrees that it might be a portal. Feels like it's something to break, um, and sort of to cut things and to cut things off. It feels like something that closes things off. Um,
Pascal's going to turn on his sight once more, though he's already looked at the mirror enough with it that it's like a familiar sight.
Okay. Which arcana or arcanum?
Um, just his two that he has, both of them, space
Okay.
and mind.
Space in mind. So the mirror does not have a mind, but something about it whiffs to you about mind-ish things. It smells like thoughts, even though it doesn't have a mind to have the thoughts. With space, you can see it sort of looming large in your vision, almost it bigger than it is in you know your mundane sight, sort of growing, expanding, and you know I think that I imagine in the past that Dalian or not Dalian, Pascal's probably looked at it a fair bit. He glances it over, searches for anything that's immediately jumping out at him, but I don't know if Pascal has scrutinized it before, tried to really go deep.
No, he might this time though.
Okay, so maybe Dalian, or maybe with sort of this awareness of all of the other strangenesses that exist in the world, he might have the idea that he can try to go deeper, maybe plumb the depths
Yeah.
further.
That
So sure, go ahead and spend a point of willpower to
well,
start. Go ahead, sorry.
as Pascal like stares at it with his sight, he's going to begin almost like unconsciously moving closer to it, and he's gonna like reach up, almost like about to like going to touch it while scrutinizing it, like he's gonna lay his hand across the glass.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Uh,
I spend willpower and mana. Or just willpower?
It's just willpower to keep the active mage sight up for the scene. I think. But you can spend mana as part of the scrutiny, which
Could
this is the first scrutiny Pascal's done, so I don't know if he's done that before, but I think that might be something that would stand out as something that, one could do, like using this sort of power to watch how the whorls of meaning and symbol sort of
could
play with it.
actually, as Pascal kind of opens his vision further and deeper than he has before, I still have the humbled condition
Mm-hmm.
from last time when I tried to push against that anchor being. Could I?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what the rules are for, but could I just kind of for a second, Pascal's kind of overwhelmed or by because the beat is when you try to do something with hubris or arrogance. I don't know if like pushing through would count, but would that be
Maybe.
something I can choose to take the dramatic fail on? Does he's just like overwhelmed with like, he suddenly pushes through really forcefully and is not entirely prepared?
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Let me just
Maybe
quickly.
he catches the vision of like a supernal being or something. I know that's a thing for dramatic failures that can occur.
Yeah. Let me quickly look
A
over
There's
bold
one
move.
right
that.
here. Oh no, it has to be from your path, I think.
Yeah.
Mm.
Normally it does. Yes. Sorry. What was I looking up? I was looking up the scrutiny rules, as always. Focus mage sight. Scrutiny. Dramatic failure. Um. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So you sort of open up your eyes and you sort of try to dig deeper, fight against it, try to sort of really. I'm imagining Pascal, based on sort of how humbled he's feeling, is trying to like wrench out meaning from this thing, and then realizing sort of its similarity to what he saw yesterday. It's sort of whiffing of the same bit as that being in the chain grove yesterday, and he failed, or he sort of recoils in his will instinctively. His will just fails because of his humbling experience. So for dramatic failure, take a beat for the dramatic failure. Yeah, so take a beat for the dramatic failure. Take a beat for procking the condition. So that's 2 beats. And The player accrues no successes and adds 2 to the mystery's opacity. If the player has already made a number of rolls equal to the unmodified dice pool, a supernal entity of the mage's path takes note of the mage and may affect him with its power as long as he maintains his mage sight. This is the very first time he's trying scrutiny, so that's not the case presently. But did Pascal spend any mana on this attempt?
I'll say if it will make something happen, I think Pascal would have. Like if he had felt that sort of like, power or
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
He
maybe
would've
I
spent
can,
one.
spend power juice to, force my will. That's something that he does with his spells sometimes, right? He spends mana to, fight back against the world and reality recoiling against his magic when he oversteps. So we'll say you spent, a mana just to watch how it happened. And as you pour that bit of mana into the mirror, and as your sort of eyes recoil and close back, you see sort of the pattern of this thing in its space, sort of. It grows even larger before your eyes, like to the extent that when you're looking at the mirror, the cracks seem huger. To They swallow your vision, and it's so difficult to look away from these cracks now that they're so big and up in your face. And Dalian, also looking at it with sight, sees the cotton ball of thorns sort of start churning a bit before his eyes, and more thorns sprout out of it, and it grows denser, but also more irregular in shape as its opacity increases by 2. And I need to add that to your sheet as an ongoing thing. Reminder to self. Anyway, yeah. But as the mana pours into it, everyone looking at it with both mage sight and with normal eyes sees the reflections on the mirror suddenly changes what it's reflecting. There's no, bright flash. There's no sort of sign of anything coming, no dramatic entry. But all of a sudden, each of these shards of the mirror is reflecting something different. One small chunk is reflecting what looks to be the corner of someone's face as they're engaged in some sort of tryst with a lover. The corner of another face being seen meeting their lips. One other shard is reflecting a group of people of a darker skin tone conferring in a corner of some building that you can't see many details of. Another shard shows a scene of some people in a hut in a shed, sitting around, telling stories and playing music and laughing and enjoying each other's company. Just many, many scenes of. Yeah, just many, many scenes suddenly appearing reflected. And for a couple of seconds, even for 3, for 4, for 6, these scenes play out, and then the mirror switches back to showing the room or bits of the room that you're standing in, disjointed parts of your clothing, corners of the wood making up the structure of the roof or ceiling and walls.
Question: Does John get any notion of what arcana that is from his passive sight?
Space.
As in, okay, that makes sense. John is kind of really, as soon as the things changed, was looking at all the various things and trying to form like a connection between them. Like, was it trying to figure out if there was like a common theme?
Sure. Give me a wits plus resolve roll. Minus. Never mind. It's fine. Or
Oh, damn.
damn. Yeah. Just you can't really. It happens so fast, and you're so taken aback that even though you tried to look and you tried to form a pattern, flitting your attention from shard to shard, you found that you were unable to sort of. You missed the forest for the trees, and you were trying. You just have this impression of fragments of lots of different things happening in different places. Maybe at the same time, I don't know, maybe they all involved people, they all were places. You don't get an overarching sense of commonality be- between those.
Gotcha.
Um, Pascal's just going to try to like take it all in as well.
Okay.
But maybe focus less on the scenes than the cracks in the mage site that are widening.
Yeah. So Pascal has looked at things before. Some things present themselves to the sight more or less clearly. Some or less clearly. Some things present themselves to the sight more clearly. And this they don't typically change unless they don't typically change. Pascal hasn't done digging before, so he doesn't have that experience of opacity decreasing of I don't or however Pascal sort of experiences it through his mage sight. He doesn't have that sort of sense of the thing he is has not had that sense of the thing he's looking at sort of opening up its secrets to his sight. But he also conversely hasn't experienced things getting more opaque to his sight before, and that's probably very unnerving for him.
Mm-hmm.
But this or everyone take a arcane beat from this, from viewing the thing and seeing it. It's strange behavior that doesn't necessarily conform to your understanding of how things work, but is obviously magic as you know it. What do you do now?
Pascal's going to ask the other two, like, what's happening? Did you see why it did that?
Yeah, John is kind of confirms that kind of he saw things seem to change, but couldn't kind of keep up with it. It was far too quick.
I pushed it, and it responded with that.
John kind of gestures and asks if he can try.
Go ahead, but be careful. It seems like it got bigger since I pushed it. Just be careful. But Pascal's definitely too interested to see what will happen to stop now.
Yeah, John is not a cautious person, so not when there's this kind of interesting stuff going. John is going to try and do the exact same thing that Pascal did to kind of push it and um, yeah, and he's going to have his active sight up as well.
Okay. Um, so by push it, you mean you're going to try to spend mana on it, or you're going to attempt scrutiny, or you're going to attempt to, thrust your awareness into it and dig off the layers of whatever obscures its true nature from your sight
I
or both.
think I think I think more just like trying to um, make the mirror do the thing again rather than trying to scrutinize it, because I think John understands there's really focusing your sight. um, I think John is less trying to do that, and more trying to just sort of do what Pascal did, and release some mana, spend some mana,
Okay.
and kind of
Um,
activate here.
yeah, you had your active sight up before, so I think you can tell that you could watch the whirls of mana probably, I don't know, coming out of Pascal's hand as he had it held up almost on the mirror. So I'll say that John would know that, Pascal poured mana into it.
Oh yeah, I'll do that.
Okay. Spend the point of mana. And as you do so, it happens again. That sort of feeling of an effect occurring, your passive mage sights going off occurs, and the scenes change once more before you. albeit less suddenly this time and more gradually. But the scenes are different. You do a quick look around for a couple of seconds to see if you recognize any of the spots that you're looking into, and nothing seems the same. I'll just give you that right off. It seems to all be different scenes and places, and it lasts for about the same amount of time.
Okay, knowing it's coming, can John kind of again try and make those connections?
Sure. Give me a wits plus resolve roll, -1 for a repeated action. Okay, successes this time. Yeah, these all seem to be scenes of heightened emotion, in the in the scenes before and the scenes here, you see, lovers engaged with each other, and experiencing sort of intimacy and lust and joy. Families experiencing happiness. People plotting in the corner of the royal court. Scenes of high emotion and high sort of engage. Yeah, high emotion. We'll just say that. There are a
Yeah,
few that don't fit, like perhaps, John sees a couple of people, engaged in playing some sort of board game that he doesn't recognize, but very focused intently. But in general, um, heightened emotion.
cool. Yeah, I think John is kind of perceiving that in a sort of, oh, okay, oh, this is what the sort of the resonance is here. This is the vibe here. Okay, yeah, and he's gonna explain that to the rest of them. These are when you push it, it shows you these sort of scenes of heightened emotion. These, yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Was there anything else that one wanted or anyone wanted to do in this scene?
Um, did Dalian's watcher do anything else?
Um,
Certainly, the player is a bit not feeling super great, so I'm a bit out of it, to be honest.
Okay.
yeah. The Watcher didn't do anything too much,
Watcher.
aside from it doesn't have time, so it's not necessarily engaging with the same sort of forces as what Dalian's witnessing its atemporal nature through, but it's sort of there behind Dalian, and it feels its presence as this sort of agent of fate. If Dalian
And
wanted to cast a spell involving fate, he could use that presence to sort of bolster his will, but otherwise it doesn't speak with him and can't speak with him, or he's
Hmm.
gotten the
Oh,
sense
okay.
that it can't speak with him. In this state, at least, maybe, if he were to do something else eventually, he could find a place where, or, if he could find a way to connect with it more powerfully or make it manifest, he could speak with it. But as of now, it only appears sort of as a figment in his sight.
Uh, Pascal's just gonna sweep over to a collection of ordered papers and then jot down the notes of what John's relaying, basically about like theories about the resonance or whatever. That I don't know if John would use that word but that's sort of like whatever you say, Pascal's going to copy it down.
Cool.
yeah, I think resonance feels right for John to use. Like I know it's the correct word, but
Right.
it's a good word for it. So I think I
Yeah.
think John would settle on that.
Okay. So with that, I am flagging somewhat, and Emmerich also is feeling a little out of it. So I said this would be a slightly short session. We've gotten through a fair amount of what we said we wanted to get through, so I think we
Yeah.
will call it there, and then I will end stream. Thanks for watching, everyone, and hello to YouTube.
Mhm.
Take care.